Hi, Money Magicians. How are you today? Um, yeah, welcome to today's live class. Usually I do these on Friday, but I'm doing it today because yesterday I had to go get I had to go get train tickets, etc., etc. And I leave Hue. I'm still in Vietnam. I leave way for Ninh Binh this evening, so I'm taking a night train and I should be in Ninh Binh first thing tomorrow morning. And I'm staying there for a few days and then I'll figure out where to next after that. Okay, so yeah. And I can only do the lives outside in the garden. So I'm living in this really epic art house in Hue where like it's kind of like an Airbnb. I mean, they say hotel, but I think they call everything here that's not where you rent a hotel, right? But it's a house and I have access to the lounge, the kitchen, everything. So I'm loving that because that's really what I wanted. So I work outside in the garden. You can't see it now, but there's a little pond. I've taken pictures. I'm like looking at a pond and a bridge and oh, it's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm surrounded by paintings everywhere. So you can see one behind there, but it's owned by two brothers that are artists and they are painters, and one of their students is behind me. So they always have students here who are always painting, Vietnamese students, of course. So we communicate by using my phone app. Like I've been like using English, Vietnamese translation. That's literally how I communicated everything, even saying, I want to check out. Can I pay to check out? I'm leaving this evening, and this is the time that I'm leaving. Every single thing has been in translation in Vietnamese. And I also had to explain being vegan and everything again, the phone app. I don't know how people did everything before Google because I literally had to explain my food options and breakfast, what time I wake up, everything with an app. So it's been actually very interesting because they also write everything in Vietnamese and show me, and this is how we all been having conversations. So it's been lovely. Anyway, back to today's class, which is about how trauma keeps us receiving and makes us givers. So I shared a quote yesterday. No, on Thursday, I shared a quote that Jerome, I think that's who it is, had shared on his wall. And one of the things that he said was how trauma, a lot of us are actually not able to receive. We keep ourselves as givers. Like we find it more comfortable to be givers because we have trauma and we haven't processed that trauma. So it's easier to give than to receive. And I received comment from Paul on the Facebook page when I shared that on the Wealthy Money page. And she said to me she didn't understand what that means because she was brought up Christian and she was taught that it's better to give than to receive. So of course it's better to give, right? It's awesome to give. It's better to give than to receive, so to speak. I don't know about if it's better or if it's a question of it's better, but giving is great, right? Because giving also opens up the way to receiving. So here's the thing, is that when you give, you also open the path up to receiving, but most of us actually block the receiving. So according to the law of reciprocity, what you give, you get back 10 times, right? So say if you want, so whatever it is that you want, one of the fastest ways to unblock or to get the things that you want is to actually give the thing that you want. So if you want money, give money, right? And then you receive 10 times more back. But here's the trick again, is that you have to give with no expectations. So most people tend to give and they're like, I expect to get, right? So if you want travel, gift people with trips, right? I can't explain to you guys how often I gift trips to people and tours to people, not because I'm expecting anything back, but because I know from the law of reciprocity that somehow it will come back. And for me, it doesn't come, my traveling gifts don't come from other people, right? Like they come literally from the universe, where miraculously everything will just line up to go to a country, and I'll get insane discounts on accommodation, and I'll get insane discounts on plane tickets, even if I book 24 hours before. I just learned to live with these expectations. So I just, well, expectations in terms of like, oh, I expect that the universe will cover me, right? Whereas most of us, what we do is we give, and we think the person that we gave to should be the person that we receive from. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, if people decide to give you back, awesome. But the very definition of a gift is that I give and I expect nothing in return. So just give and know that it may not even come from a person. Like I said, it may come from small things like discounts, which are not actually small things, but big things, right? Or it may come from friends suddenly gifting you like a 50% off on their apartments in some foreign country or something. So same thing. So what you want, give the thing that you want. If you want love and you want a relationship, give love and give it, just give it with an open heart. Give love to someone, right? It doesn't have, and this is not about love from a romantic standpoint. That's where most people are like, but it's really about giving unconditional love to the people in your life. And if you're struggling with that, then doing the work around that so that you give love to people regardless, so that you can start to give. And as you give, more love flows to you. I know, right? So it seems counterintuitive, this give the thing that you want. So most of us are natural givers. We love giving, but we have a problem with receiving. And then we hide behind this, well, it's better to give than to receive. And we make it seem like humility. No, I don't want to receive. But then the real question becomes, why is it good for us to give and for others to receive from us if we're not going to be receiving in return? A lot of it is actually our trauma, right? So let me talk about, like, there's no A, B, or C here. It's just like how our trauma keeps us from receiving, right? So the way that our trauma keeps us, so for most of us, we learned that giving puts us in a position of power, right? Because of the way that most of us have been brought up is that if you give, then you're not owing anyone. Because again, when we give, we tend to think, ooh, then the person, then I don't owe anyone. Whereas when we receive, most of us tend to receive, and then we go, oh, how am I going to pay this person back? Ooh, I must top this gift. So then we end up giving right back. That's not receiving, because like you've just been given, but then you think I need to top that gift with something, or I need to keep giving that person as well, or then you feel indebted to the other person. Then that's absolutely not receiving. And there's a kind of vulnerability that comes with receiving. And most of us have learned not to be vulnerable, because if I receive, you have to almost trust that as you receive, that the person who is giving is honestly giving. They're not going to come back and say, hey, you owe me, which some people do, right? Because I know sometimes that happens, but it very, like, I mean, if we're truly honest, it very rarely happens, right? But we have those expectations because we grow up. The way that our society works is that, you know what, if I'm giving you, then you owe me, or that's the kind of mentality that we have. So if this resonates with you, let me know if it's making sense. So there's a kind of vulnerability that receiving requires, because it requires us to trust in the other person's gifting, so to speak, that they are giving in the same manner that we give, right? So it's about allowing ourselves to be on the opposite end of saying, oh, I needed this, or I wanted this, and oh, I desired this, and to just say thank you. Whereas sometimes when we give, it puts us in a position of power, because we are the ones that are bringing something to the table, whereas receiving means that you're not bringing anything to the table. You're just here, you're just you. And that's sometimes one of the hardest things for us to be. And how trauma plays into this is because we've learned in the past that to be vulnerable and to be open and allowing of others to take care of our needs or our wants or our desires puts us in a position where we may be seen as weak, because we live in this world that's very much based on a toxic masculinity, right? So yeah, I'm going to talk about it because lately I'm still on the patriarchy thing, right? So yeah, but it's just basically just a little bit of because we live in this world where we've been taught all about self-sufficient, being super strong, you have to be super independent. Most of us don't like being vulnerable because we see vulnerability as a weakness, being open because people can turn around and use that vulnerability against us. And we see it not all the time. Again, we see it sometimes, but again, what we're seeing sometimes, what we often see is how being vulnerable, sharing our stories, opening ourselves up to people, often people rally towards us, right? They come to our aid, they support us. I mean, I've experienced this so often on the journey with Wealthy Money, where I share stuff and I receive so many inboxes, requests of how can we support you? How can we help you through this emotionally, all that. So it's often awesome, but at the same time, we also do see on the flip side how sometimes being vulnerable, people do use our vulnerabilities against us. And maybe at a young age, as kids, when we didn't have a voice, when we couldn't walk away from certain situations, we were vulnerable and somebody used that vulnerability against us. And so we decided never to be vulnerable again. And so that inability to receive is coming from a space of, oh, I will not receive because someone may use that against me. And we may even have experienced that as adults. I know when I was in a relationship, I used to be very good at receiving, right? So I've been working a lot on receiving again in 2018, and it's been amazing because I've been receiving again. But for a few years after a breakup, I had a really, really hard time receiving, because what had happened was I'd been given so much in that relationship, and then halfway through, right before the breakup, the person turned around, which is kind of why we broke up. And they were basically listing all the things that they had given to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this the same man? And basically, because it given those things, now I was expected to behave in a particular manner, be a particular person. And I made the decision that, oh, I will never allow myself to receive again, and especially never allow myself to receive in a romantic context, because then the chickens come back to roost, basically, and someone comes and someone will start listing all the various ways that they have given to me, and then I'm expected to somehow pay back all this, because before that I was like, oh, I'm just receiving, and then this happened. So that was a trauma, right? That was a trauma that came from love, and it was a trauma of feeling betrayed. So now imagine if that happened often to you. And I can see how for me as an adult, that affected me for a few years. And I made this decision. And I think sometime last year, I was like, wait a minute, did I unconsciously make that decision as I was doing more work around receiving and opening myself up and expanding? I was like, oh my God, I totally made that decision, and it was so unconscious and in a relationship. And obviously when you're going through a breakup, you're so hurt and you're just like, I will never again put myself in this situation. I vow never again. So that was a trauma, and I made a decision out of trauma, and I had to backtrack and heal that. So now if you've been doing that from childhood and you've experienced that. So maybe an adult gave to you or friends gave to you, and then they had demands from that, or you were, every time you received something, something was expected of you, and this can tie to abuse, that sometimes you're expected to behave in a particular manner, then that is trauma, and it has shaped your ability to receive. So why is this even a big deal? Why do I keep going on and on about receiving? Because this is not the first video that I do around receiving, right? And we always, and it often comes up all the time. Like, so that's why I keep going back, because people keep sending me questions, etc. Then I have to answer them. But the reason why this is important is because most of us are working with the universe. Saying on Ask Tuesday, we're asking for our heart's desires every Tuesday, most of us, right? And maybe every day in prayer, you're asking for the divine, be it Allah, be it God, be it the universe, whatever your concept of the divine is, right? And you're asking that you're being supported and that you're given something. But because you're asking, but you're not opening up to receiving. Because you're not open to receiving, you're not getting. So the one way to open to receiving is to heal the trauma. Like I said, for me, it was a breakup, and it may seem like nothing, but as I've been working through that, I've had to cry it out because it felt like such a deep betrayal. I was like, oh my God, I loved this man. And then he turned around and basically used the same gifts that he was giving to me against me, right? And I was like, no, F that. I'm never going to allow a man to do that to me again. But that was traumatic, because it wasn't just, I didn't just say, I'm never going to allow a man. I said, I'm never going to allow anyone. And in doing that, I didn't realize that I was starting to block even the gifts from the universe that are not coming even from humans, but just coming from spirit, right? And it could be small gifts, it could be big gifts. So this is why we want to heal the receiving. We want to heal our ability to receive, because most of us are asking, we are giving, we are doing so much work, but we're blocking our own receiving. We're blocking the miracles. We're thinking it has to be hard. We're thinking we need to do it all ourselves. And I can't ever stress this enough. It's be open to miracles, because a lot of things, like people always ask me, how do you travel consistently and do this? And I promise you, like 60 to 70% is about being open to miracles and walking in faith and expecting to receive and knowing that I will receive because I have asked, and not having to stress about that. But that also means doing the trauma, working through my stories about what I think is possible, right? But a huge part is really being open to receiving the very things that I'm praying for and asking for. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Let me know if this resonated, if you have any questions. Nelly, you give a little heart, okay? I'm happy about that. So does anyone have any questions before I log off? I'm gonna go get some lunch and yeah, hopefully be on a train at 9:30 to Ninh Binh. I've got some friends that I met in Chiang Mai. They turned out to be in Vietnam, and they've invited, they were like, oh, you're going to be in Ninh Binh. We're like 2 hours away, so we're meeting up tomorrow. We're all staying at the same hotel, so I'm super duper excited. They're going to be doing the whole travel thing with me for 3 days, so yeah. And yeah, totally love Vietnam. Like love Vietnam. One of the guests here who's Vietnamese as well just heard that I was taking the train to Ninh Binh. So she's actually the one that advised me to take the train, knocked on my door this morning, and she had actually bought me food. She's not vegan. She went to a vegan restaurant and went and bought me food. So pat course or road food. I don't know how else to translate that if you're not South African, but she bought me food for the road. And I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. That is so sweet. So yeah, receiving. I'm so happy. Like she also got me fruit. Like she's been gifting me with fruit and all sorts of things. Like since I've been in Vietnam, people just keep gifting me with things. Like Vietnamese people keep giving me things. I was telling Honey, I was like, oh my God, people keep hugging me and they keep giving me things. What do I do? It's been like absolutely beautiful, and I'm super grateful. So I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat on the train journey. I plan to sleep though all the way through until I get to my destination in the morning, because it's a 12-hour journey. That's why I decided to do it at night instead of during the day. Anyway, guys, have a fantastic day, and let me know your thoughts on this class and if you have any questions at all. Oh my gosh, there's like all these comments. They just came through now. Okay, let me just read them. Okay, wow. Okay, so Terafata, you're smiling and laughing. I'm not. You're sending love as well. And Zintle, you say, got here late, just saying hello, hello. And Nelly, you're saying, I love that we should be open to not sure. Oh, to miracles from the universe, powerful. Okay, that was highlighted. Zincle is saying enjoy, and Nelly is saying enjoy your podcast. Thank you, guys. Have a fantastic day. I'm so excited. Bye.